For those of us who live and breathe crypto, Bitwise is a name you want to know. They've been in the game since 2017 and now manage over 10 billion in crypto assets across 30 different solutions. Index funds, Bitcoin and crypto, equity ETFs, on-chain solutions, you name it, Bitwise does it. But here's what I really recommend checking out. Their weekly CIO memo. Every week, CIO Matt Hogan breaks down what's happening in crypto, like why Bitcoin's up or down, what the big institutions are doing, and the stories flying under the radar. It's sharp, it's free, and honestly, it's one of the best reads in crypto. Find it at bitwiseinvestments.com/CIO memo. Again, bitwiseinvestments.com/CIO memo. We're back. We're back again. Luckily for one Friday this year, it does look like we're slightly rallying, although the week has not been maybe the best week ever. We did touch 84K, but we're back up to around 88K at the moment in Bitcoin. And Friday, well, maybe we'll have a little bit of a Santa Claus rally. Who knows? One of the final episodes of the year, we've got on the Blockmates guys. Two guys I've been following crypto for a while now. I've been on their show, and they have their own platform, newsletter, community. Really, really great fellows, Grant and Alex, who are both with us in the studio. And I think hopefully we'll have them on pretty regularly going forward. Thanks for coming on, guys. Really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Yeah, cheers, Mando. This is quite nice, not playing host. Like our roles have reversed here from the last time we did this.
Exactly. Two Brits, which just makes it so much easier for me to have a conversation with you guys. But
yeah.
What I thought it would be interesting to bring you guys on also in particular is just because you guys follow so many of the metas, the niche trends in crypto at the moment. And I think at the moment, there's a lot of self-reflection, I feel like, in the crypto community. There's a lot of questions about what will be the next thing, if there will ever be a next thing for crypto, what's going on. And you guys have got your ear to the ground a lot. So I thought it'd be really good to have you get on and just, assess the market alongside us. We may even give some predictions for next year. I thought that'd be quite a fun way to set up the show. But this week has been a bit of a strange week. We did hold on to this 80K level for now. And there's been, it feels like on the app layer, we had some big drops and things like Hyperliquid, Pump Fun, a lot of, I don't know, timeline speculation that this is more than just a bear market for crypto, that this is over, which is classic because everyone says that, that's the time to go right back in. But what's been your general sentiment in your community at the moment as well? Like, do you think that we have a way to go before we can kind of come out of this rut?
Yeah, I think the kind of chats that we're in is relatively been quite self-deprecating. Like a lot of people laughing at the round trips that they've definitely absolutely nailed the execution on the round trip of. Feels like a lot of people have continued to do the same things that made them money in the upwards trending market, which has then inadvertently got them completely destroyed when it's been sideways chop down style action. I always recommend playing with much fewer chips when markets are like this. It's just recognizing when we're entering those times. And yeah, I think it's a lot of hearing people just completely crashing out. I'm hearing people going back to study. I'm hearing people going to get a job, like all the typical memes, that you see as like sentiment confluence at the bottom. But yeah, there's at the same time, it's like what I always say is you've got to still have like at least 1 foot in, whether that's in whatever way, shape or form. But when we're talking about what's next, there's always something next. People telling you, they can tell you what's going to be next. That kind of like the charlatans that you shouldn't pay attention to. The reason something becomes next and becomes a new meta or becomes a new narrative is because no one's seen it coming. So there's ample upside for everyone to get in at ground level, which perpetuates into forward momentum. Everyone's happy, everyone's making money. So yeah, but general, it's weird because sentiment seems quite negative when you tie it directly to tokens. Industry as a whole, never been in a better place.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to answer the sentiment question, isn't there, really? There's the way of answering it as a market participant, and there's the way to answer it as an industry participant. And as Grant's saying, I think that what I feel and what we've seen is when you've been around the block a few times, there's a pattern of behavior, and we all joke, don't we? It's like, how many more crash outs before up only? And the meme that Grant always posts where it's like, right, bottom's got to be in. And I'm not saying it doesn't, it's not painful. Of course it is. It's rough. We all question it. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. But it's one of them, when you've seen it enough times, all the tweets start coming out telling everyone how we're all wasting our time and nothing's ever going to be worth anything ever again. And then all of a sudden something happens and it pops and it's out of nowhere. And until you're ready, and that's why you have to be on it. And like why you have to be ready to pull the trigger and know when the right time is and what the right thing is. And if you're not comfortable clicking buttons, you'll miss it. And those of us that do stick around and kind of continue doing this, if you're relatively new, are always accused of being delusional. And then it's luck, but it's not, right? Is it? It's like if you're watching closely enough for the timing to be right, then you probably will catch the upside at some point. So, yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah, like you make the most money sticking around in the niche communities when something comes up, because then when it goes a bit more mainstream, everyone piles in, and normally that's kind of the top. So I agree with that, and that has generally been when I've made some of my best trades too. When it feels a bit more like it's just our niche community. You just want a bit more stability in prices. It feels like, and at the moment, it still feels like we're in that like downward trend. We were talking about just before we went on air, but there was a popular article even in the last week, which is like crypto is dead, which sounds like a very aggressive headline, but actually the theme of the article is kind of what you just said. Like the average market participant seems to have gone from cypherpunk to NFT collectible person to now more almost like an extension of fintech. It feels like that's where the conversation seems to be happening when you talk about like you're in crypto, and that movement has naturally actually meant that the number of users has gone up massively over the last year, and obviously crypto-enabled businesses are being enabled all over the globe. It feels like right now for payments, for RWAs, for prediction markets, but the value of our tokens from that original cypherpunk crew, and then even the NFT like ownership crew, no one really is paying attention to them. And those are drifting lower. And there's been some talk about the fact that maybe they will just continue to drift lower. And I kind of can see why that is become a stronger view. Like there has been a trend this year of apps being more valuable, or capturing a lot of the value, like Hyperliquid or a pump fund. I know that ICO came at a high level, but it's clear that businesses in crypto are making a lot of money. But the tokens that make up the large majority of the market cap, they don't seem to be capturing that as much as we thought maybe they would. And that is like a structural issue, it feels like, for crypto at this stage. What do you guys think? I'm sure you read that article too.
Yeah, I mean, I think just before we get into this, and I do want to clarify, because it doesn't feel like a very nice time to be trading anything at the minute. I mean, frankly, if you are actively trading this market, then kind of,
I want a trading competition.
Mando's doing a success.
I was going to say that as a point, Mando. Like, I saw that the other day, and I was like, "That's the best Christmas Brucey bonus I think I've ever seen."
I want a perp trading competition for synthetics. Number one, 260 traders, guys. So I've still got it.
Some going in this market, though. Like,
It really is, honestly. And that's why I'm saying there's a difference between like kind of realizing that there's blood on the streets and potentially some opportunity, and obviously the other side of the coin, which, as you're saying, Mando, it's like you do want to see a little bit of stability because it feels very, very difficult right now at this moment in time to predict. Like, I mean, we haven't had a utility cycle in God knows how long, but what a sensible position would look like and like how something would play out the way you would expect it to. But then you could maybe argue that that hasn't been the case for a long time. I don't know. Yeah, don't know what you think,
Yeah,
Grant.
I think like there's multiple factors that have all converged to this point of why there's like it's the largest disconnect between positive fundamentals and token price across the board, right? And I think that is what is leading a lot of people at the fringes to be a little bit disillusioned, right? So this article's absolutely bang on, amazing title, like copywriter's dream. That like the reach on it. People are retweeting this without like thinking they're shit grave dancing on crypto, and they like don't actually realize that it's actually fundamentally bullish under the hood.
I know.
So I think what's led us to this point, like looking at it through a microscope over the past few years, is we've probably had like pre-product valuations that are allowed to play out in the private markets that have been ran up to like dizzying heights before the tokens have actually got to market. So, and then they've been kind of marketed and brought to market in a way that still is portrayed that there is enough meat on the bone for the average retail participant, and there hasn't. Like a lot of these private rounds have been completely seeded out. The trades happened, you weren't invited, the trades happened, but now you're expected to actually go and buy it at open market, right? So that led to this huge overhang of like a really, really good private allocators market from like 2018, 2019, leading into 2020 and 2021. So like people who did that and those vintages of funds like did really, really well. No one is returning on their funds from like a more recent vintage because low float, high FDV is resulted in a situation where there is so much overhang of tokens in the hands of people that are just happily to offload on the backdrop of negative sentiment, and it just creates this self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, these tokens are absolutely completely worthless. Like what are we even doing here? So like the equal and opposite reaction of what you're seeing to that was, well, let's make it more fair and equal to everyone. Let's just launch tokens for $12 on Pumped Up Fun. So that was the industry reaction to, I don't get access to tokens. Now let's launch a bajillion tokens every single day. That is not the answer, obviously. That's like an equal and opposite reaction. The pendulum is obviously supposed to swing somewhere in the middle, which makes it fair and equal access. Now we're at the ICO stage. I'd even argue that the ICO stage has been corrupted because you're starting to see billion-dollar and multi-billion-dollar ICOs that are technically pre-product, right? So no wonder retail participants are disenfranchised and like people at the fringes are disenfranchised about like what the fuck's going on, because you've got these tokens that aren't even tied directly to the products that like are supposedly on paper have got strong fundamentals. So then I suppose our job is putting our little investor and trader hats on is, well, where does the pendulum swing post that? So we've been doing a lot of like research and looking into, well, maybe there's projects that are willing to back themselves from and build from a grassroots perspective and build from the ground up. So maybe starting smaller, trying to show a product market fit, and then expanding there. So leaving a little bit more meat on the bone for the average retail participant to actually get early access to. Been paying a lot more attention to like some metadata, what's going on there. Just holding teams a little bit more accountable for the amount of capital that they've technically raised and what they want to create from a product, as opposed to just going, there you go, a la carte, just maybe go and build what you said you were going to do, or maybe don't. And then there's also like the downstream effect of what's coming online, which I see as a big theme in 2026 of true ownership of tokenized equity, whether that be tokens that already exist going through some kind of backwards compatibility. So investors have actual protections as opposed to just this pseudo equity token that's just floating in the ether, or you just get projects that launch with zero token and they're just inherently profitable, and the token would just inherently become a headache because you've got some unemployable person sat in Discord asking them to do a little bit more marketing, and it just becomes a headache. So that's the backdrop of what we're in currently.
Yeah, it does frame it in two different ways, like you just said. Like there's this framing of just the way that tokens are maybe brought to market is being slightly exposed, and that's for legacy tokens as well as recent ones. And then there's the actual value of the token itself. Like, are L1 valuations just too high anyway, and actually we're going to see a return to like apps being the most valuable. I think Hyperliquid's like a good example, right? Like it couldn't have been a better model. They're buying back all their coins, and even now, like that token's not doing so well because the team has to like sell, and you kind of have this. I don't know. This is a strange scenario of with all the VC coins that have even come out recently, where they've been trying to be portrayed as something else, but they still have this sort of horrific. Horrific candles as soon as they kind of come to market. That has definitely not been solved here. Like the perfect way to have a token get done. I guess I am bullish about crypto right now, but for those reasons, for what we just said, the most bullish things, which is like payments, RWAs, tokenized share of revenue, essentially, of various different businesses that are going to be around. And you can, like, I think the stablecoin market's going to probably reach 500 billion TVL next year. I think RWAs could do, I mean, if the Genius Act gets in, we could get, sorry, not the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, we could get a huge increase in the number of different RWAs that kind of start getting traded. I'm just still not quite clear if the L1s are really going to benefit from that next year. I still think that we could be in this market where if you bring up the others chart or you bring up total 3, I entered crypto quite late. I entered crypto in 2021 and the market is just the same. Like I was speaking to Ovi about it since then. Like when I entered, ETH was like 2,000, 2,500. Like how has it not done anything over this whole period? And it's kind of like insane to me that the L1 trade just has not been the one. And if I'm honest with myself, I don't see a 10x in any of the L1s. And I'm only in crypto for getting 10x's, but I do see it in some of the apps. And it happens. I think it can happen pretty regularly with some of these apps if they're built the same way. Often they'll be built around trading of certain of these assets that get put on chain. But do I see ETH going to 30K? Do I see Solana going to 1,000? I just don't see any of this happening, and I don't even think it's. I think Bitcoin may, because that if it really keeps this digital gold narrative, but the L1s actually being able to capture the value of what goes on in their network, I think that's the real thing that's been challenged as we've now entered more of like a TradFi valuation metric sort of world. These things will trade at hilariously high PE ratios. And there was this idea of like the network effect of them or like owning them as collateral. But I think as stablecoins are just growing so much on all these networks, that's also being challenged too. So I think that if I were to pick one theme that I think is going to be a consistent one for 2026 is just this extension that apps are going to be where you should invest in, not L1s. Bitcoin, I still has a slightly different narrative to most of them, but I don't think that is going to really turn. And that can really put off people because I still think that's where a lot of the market cap is in crypto. It's still in a lot of the L1s.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to be where I think people can still get burnt, basically.
I think a lot of that as well is I personally would rather that be the case as well. Like we talk about it all the time. Like I'm absolutely sick of just infrastructure over and over again. And then even if you get into the like every one of these coming online, new L1, L2s, left, right, and center, and you've had this weird shift of we had a moment, and this year has been like a series of moments. I would say we had a moment where everyone was kind of like battling for an identity, right? And then we were flirting with the app chain thesis. And then like now we've started moving back towards like general purpose. And I do think that a lot of these L1s are in a bit of an identity crisis as well. And if you look at like Solana that you've named there, what we've seen over the past, don't even know when it's been now, since in December 2025, from the run up we had on Sol and what happened there, technically this cycle, last cycle with memes and everything that just breathed immense life into that ecosystem. I kind of agree when I look across the board and go, what's going to give another network that level of catalyst? But maybe that comes back to the point that we made at the start of the show, that that's where the fun is. Like, we don't know, like what Grant said, you know, we've had different people say different things for the last 2 or 3 months, like, oh, we're going to be the robotics chain, or we're going to be the stablecoin chain, or we're going to be the, you know, the agent chain. And yeah, I mean, I agree, and it's slightly disheartening from a network point of view, but I would like to think it would be more exciting to see what apps do pop off, and where they choose to land as well, to be honest, because I couldn't predict it now.
I think we just had like a huge, like we had a huge party 2020, 2021 with, there was an obvious catalyst with Ethereum gas being so egregious that there was an alt L1 trade that was previously never a thing.
Yeah.
So that just spawned like a million different opportunities and variations and slight tweaks on TPS and slight tweaks on the virtual machine and slight tweaks on like latency. Like, we've basically shown the past 2 years that there isn't enough block-based demand for more than maybe 2-3 chains at max. Solana, Base, maybe 1 or 2 other flavor of the weeks at the time. But like, if you really like genuinely look at it, it all comes back down to like what the activity's been like on Solana. Yes, Ethereum has got 80 billion or whatever the fuck it is, TVL, just sat dormant, maybe getting put to use on Aave or some shit like that. But you can't look at me like with a serious face and say that the activity hasn't moved over to Solana. General purpose, I wrote this in the 2025 thesis, general purpose L2s are gone. I will extend this year in the 26 thesis to general purpose L1s are gone. What you're saying, Mando, I completely agree with. I think what you're going to see, and why you got to look at like cause and effect of these kind of things. The reason infrastructure gets incredible investment, even if it just looks completely redundant to like the well-trained eye or someone who sticks around the space, is because there are a large amount of funds sat on multiple billions that they have to actively allocate under their mandate, and you can't effectively do that to applications, because applications don't command the same amount of valuation as infrastructure does, right? So then this creates this weird arbitrage for teams to come around and say, well, we're going to build, I don't know, fucking a Solana fork that has like a rotating sequencer or some shit like that, right? That should command a much larger valuation. So these VCs and these funds that are sat on all this dormant capital got their LPs knocking on the door saying, why isn't this being allocated? Can I just go and take it to like an AI fund or a fund of funds that's going to actually actively allocate it? Say, oh, well, we've just found this L1 that's going to put all of intellectual property on chain.
I knew it was going. I knew you were going to say.
It's got this real good protege founder. He's used to work at Google DeepMind, probably did an internship for like a fucking summer or some shit.
I don't
like
even
that.
is that these days.
Yeah. So that can command, I don't know, 50 million, 100 million from our funds. So we are actually actively deploying it. Whereas all these applications that aren't seeing the light of day. But I agree with you, that is where the juice and the upside is, like 100%. Yeah. And if anything, from a retail perspective, those are probably going to get overlooked. There's probably going to be a little bit more room for the average participant to capture the upside in that, because the trades in the infrastructure side, if we're being completely honest, they've played out before you or me or the average person on the streets got access to them. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That you're right in that those are also where the most egregious financing is kind of done. Maybe if you could get into an L1 trade at like a really low valuation, that might make sense if it builds like a network effect. But for a lot of these, it's just, you can even see it. Like the VCs get unlocked, and it just creates these horrific situations for the charts of these sort of things. And this is why I'm still kind of like bullish about crypto though, because I do think the amount of money coming on here is going to increase. Like the actual TVL of crypto might, just through stable coins, might increase. And that also means that the ability, we become way more like an extension of TradFi, and that has its own issues in that a lot of our valuations actually have to start making sense very quickly. But it also means if something catches fire in our space, it can fly. It can absolutely fly. So I do think it's worth having your ear to the ground about this, like the new things that can happen. But for me, it's got to happen more on the app layer, and then I think the amount of money that can go into it can be very, very quick. I do think in terms of the themes that you guys are seeing, I know, like you said, you never really know until it's happened. But you guys go to a lot of conferences, you see a lot of the stuff that's happening. I think at the last few months, we've kind of seen the strongest themes being prediction markets, being privacy, being perps, kind of extending to all asset classes, whether it's equity perps, commodity perps, or all this sort of stuff. Is there anything else that you think has been is really poking its head out and could be something in the next few months, / the next 12 months?
What do you think, Grant, narrative-wise?
On the backdrop of what we just spoke about, I think it's impossible to ignore what Stripe and Paradigm are doing with Tempo. I think that wraps up every bullish tailwind of what came at the later part of the year with regards to stablecoin payments. The big kids coming to the sandpit, kicking sand and giving people wedgies, like Stripe, MasterCard are on board, Anthropic are on board, OpenAI are on board. Like shit's about to get real, and it's basically convinced Dankrad, who's like one of the Ethereum Foundation lead researchers, to go over there and start building, like one of the minds behind proto-danksharding. They've got Matt Huang from Paradigm, who's leading as a CEO, Stripe backing it. The acquisition of Bridge and Privy now makes a ton of sense. So if you think you can just turn on a general purpose L1 or like try and run that playbook of yesterday when you've got teams like this breathing down your neck, not going to happen. Yeah. So that is going to be a really, really interesting one. They've got this really weird and cool, not to get too nerdy or too deep on it, but like consensus mechanism and like kind of like a fast lane that only sends payment transactions. So like the rest of the activity on the network is kind of like separated into one stream, and then the rest of the payments infrastructure, obviously being Stripe, is obviously a high priority. Payments just go through that stream. So it's a really interesting way, and they've got there's loads of nerdy shit that I could get into now, but like high level, if I was going to pay attention to anything going to 26, it'd be Tempo.
Grant, before we move on too much from the valuation conversation, I just wanted to bring up what we were chatting about the other day, because I think it's worth dipping into that. You know, we were talking about Revolut valuations, yes. And if you put that side by side, I don't know whether I can't remember the figures that we were discussing at with the initial valuation, and like when you put that up against like what we're talking about with these like pre-PMF crypto businesses, L1s, networks, whatever, it's like hilarious. It's like no wonder no one takes it seriously. And I do want to like reference the exact numbers, because I think it puts it in.
It was like there or thereabouts the crowdfunding round in 2016 for what looks like you could literally take that Revolut pitch deck, which was using, I can't remember the crowdfunding platform in the UK. If you slap the word neobank on that now, it's what everyone's raising against. Revolut at the time, 100,000 users. Yes, they weren't making any revenue yet. They were kind of pre-revenue, to use the like Silicon Valley meme. 42 million.
Wow. Yeah, this is kind of, I think, what we were getting at. Like, this is the other half of it. I think everyone got really bullish about TradFi coming in and sovereigns coming in and buying our bags, and tearing down that wall so that, you know, you could buy stocks, you could buy other assets through crypto, and you know, we have all these TradFi companies investing in crypto, but then the valuations just like have to merge somewhat too. I do think there is still going to be that niche. The other part of this, though, is that niche bit, I think there'll still be bits of it. Like the original cypherpunk community, I still think is going to be there. And that's why I think privacy will still be a growing narrative next year, because I think that is like almost splintering off from crypto at this stage of like the original group, which is like, no, crypto is not for this. It's for, and it can now be for many different things. That one seems like quite a strong group, the Zcash, Monero, upgrading some of the other L1s to kind of do privacy. That I can really see growing over the next 12 months as this kind of settles in. I think it'll also be interesting to see what happens to like the internet culture elements of stuff. Like, I still like that bit of crypto. I still think it can come back as a way to like trade different bits of internet culture. And it's been a shame to see that kind of get butchered again this year. But yeah, I do think that can also come back at some stage. Like, I mean, I'm looking at certain memes. There's a meme right now, the 67 meme. If anyone has any kids, you probably know about this meme. It's just like this thing that's going around where everyone's making the signals for like 67. If you don't know about it, look it up. It's like it's a meme that kind of means nothing, but everyone goes nuts whenever 67 goes up on screen. And that has a coin. I'm like, it does feel like people will like to trade.
It will.
Culture.
Yeah. And I think that this is what we're talking about as well. Like crypto we're talking about using like cypherpunk and that term a lot here, but crypto obviously was born out of like a fundamental counterculture, right? And there's that part of it that we all love, like being on crypto Twitter, and like there's nowhere funnier sometimes from a meme point of view into where to spend your time. And it's almost like it feels as if we're going through this period of maturation, and with that does come some growing pains that mean that things will look a little bit different, probably for the better. But I agree with you, Mando. I don't think we will leave that completely. And frankly, I don't want to, like that is often when the most fun is had for me, when that kind of thing is popping off. There's projects like GTE that I know they're in the middle of a pivot pre-launch that we've been looking at doing exactly what you were talking about, like basically creating a terminal for essentially anything memeable across the internet to trade on chain. I know that sounds quite abstract and it's a little bit, what does that mean exactly? I think they're still figuring it out, but it's exactly what you're mentioning there. Like, I don't think that appetite will ever go away, because like online culture and being online and what people share and what they're into in that aspect is never going to die, in my opinion. In fact, it's actually only getting stronger with TikTok and stuff like that. So if there's a way to trade it and make money off it, I don't see why it doesn't come back around. I mean, some of our funniest trades ever, like, grant a laugh. There was a sad hamster on TikTok. And
I was in it.
Yeah, and I was honestly.
You got attached to that, Alex. You got way too attached.
Oh, I married that bag, round tripped it pretty much entirely. But I bought this thing at like maybe like 500K, and I was saying to the lad, "This is the biggest meme on TikTok. Trust me, every kid knows this hammy meme." It like pumped to like 78 mil all-time high, circa, like, which is just ludicrous.
And someone was tweeting about it. I was in this. I was in this.
I was doing a victory lap, and you do the typical thing of, well, why would I sell now? Because it's going to 700 mil. But I do think, to round that point off, we will get back to that, and I think we can have both. I think we can have the big boys like Grant saying, the TradFis, the Tempos, the Stripes coming online, and then that can still exist. Whereas I do think there are certain aspects and people within the industry that would like that to burn and die, and I'm certainly not one of them.
Genie's out the bottle with that sort of stuff. I think, like, think back to what we were doing in our late teens. I was probably like pissed in a field somewhere. Kids are growing up now with financialized products all around them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to like see late teens have a Phantom wallet or like any of these new products that are coming online. I think it's just, they are going to go through, like, the internet is more interwoven with finance and crypto and everything that comes with speculation now more than ever. And I still think we're at the very, very, very early innings of that. So as you say, with GTE, or like Noise is a good example. That's another application on Mega ETH, like trade trends. So if there's like a specific type of word, phrase, like just, there's like hive mind words and phrases that just go, for like, like it's absolutely insane. Or like, if you look at what Euphoria are doing, where
tap
basically
options,
tap trading, it looks like Doodle Jump fucking met some options trader and created an app. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is where it's going. So like, there is no kind of on and off switch with sectors of the industry. It's headed in the direction that it's going with the financial markets. It's going to be more interwoven with that. If anything, it kind of, crypto should just go into the background and just be a piece of middleware that everything else runs on top of. But the downstream effect of that are, you start to see apps like Noise and GTA and Euphoria and whoever else shouldn't really know they're on crypto rails. I think that's like, that should have been the end goal all along.
I think that's a fair point. I think part of because the crypto, like the element of everyone being online and memes has not gone away. Like, it's not like the actual fundamental thing that's happening on the internet around that. Like you said, it's only getting higher. Like TikTok's only getting bigger. The fact that we have another meme this week that's happening, I think the product in meme coins might shift. Like, we could have something which resembles more like prediction markets, where people are betting on that sort of stuff, or like can prove they were early to something like this, I think that may shift. But, and I guess this is what I'm trying to get at, is like, I still think that as the money comes into this space, that those sort of elements, because also you can't compare those to TradFi. You know, like one of the great things about that bit of the space is there is no like fees to a meme coin. It's just like internet culture. But you can't be like, oh, well, why is this trading at 500x versus Revolut? Like it trades where it trades. So
the market determines the value.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that bit of it I can still see being very strong, and you're going to see some crazy, you know, I still think 100x gains is in that bit of the space. But maybe it just won't be what people have been betting on for the most part that I've been in crypto, which is L1s.
And maybe it's not the apps themselves; it's like the markets within inside them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because with every inherent new way to speculate, this is my point about pump. Like, it's not meme coins. It's the format in which they're launched being too one-dimensional, so the game gets figured out and edge erodes away to a point that nobody can make any profit. And it's like a power law distribution of probably 10, 15 accounts who make all the money on that, from who's willing to first transaction every single token. There needs to be different ways and different games and different like financial engineering to allow these speculative assets to exist. So like the way that I kind of think about it with what you just to kind of like piggyback off what you're saying is, in the 2017, 2018 days, there's a lot of white papers come out saying like, or even just like articles saying DeFi will enable anyone around the world to get weather protection on their crops in a permissionless way, or be able to buy insurance on XYZ, or be able to lend permissionlessly, blah, blah, blah. That was all kind of like, it was there in a format. It didn't necessarily work because like the infrastructure wasn't there to allow it, but it now exists. Like the idea stands on the shoulders of the infrastructure that came before it, and then like it now becomes a thing. So with like the example which I think everyone tries to use is, imagine you found a Spotify artist when they had like 5 followers and like 5,000 players on a song, and then they blow up to be the next whoever. That is an inherent use case of mimetic speculation on the internet that will manifest in a way we just don't know what that platform is going to be yet. And we don't know what the asset of speculation is going to be. We don't know how you're going to get exposure to that, and we don't know who the hell is going to actually bring this thing online, who's going to hit like mass market saturation with it. It will happen, but this is our job to figure out what it's going to be and try and get the edge before everyone else does.
Well, yeah, that's what I would say. I would say that when I was in TradFi, the realm of things that you could bet on or invest in, whatever, was quite it's narrow in terms of the product. So it's like equities, bonds, maybe you got into like mortgages, but like after that it kind of trailed away. Commodities, let's say. Now I feel like the number of assets you are going to be able to speculate on is going to go up unbelievable amounts. Like what crypto has enabled, I think, here is TradFi to expand its field of horizon, and we're going to see a ton more ways that you can make money. They may not be in the same ways that they were last time. It's basically what I think we're getting at. Yeah. I saw an interview with the Robinhood CEO who kind of went on, it was some sort of end of year presentation. He was talking about very bullish on prediction markets, but he was saying that in some areas, you can bet on the weather now. And they're seeing big volumes go through that, which is essentially a byproduct of like the insurance.
It was like you could basically go long or short on certain jurisdictions with the housing market.
That's right. Yeah.
Which I think like that in like to double click on what we're saying, it's like that might show a proof of concept. Maybe they used like some form of binary options to actually allow people to actually go and do that. But maybe like the final form of that looks like just pure tokenized equity of like specific real estate. I know there's a lot of teams in the Middle East trying to do this now, and they're starting to make some serious headway. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those like assets come online. But like with this, like we've got an old friend in the industry called Rob. He used to be I think he's like a wheat commodities trader, but you would actually have like large large multinationals that relied on like wheat supply for their businesses to fund, then they would be buying like long dated futures just to protect as like an insurance hedge. Robinhood are basically saying we're going after that market with a new format with prediction markets.
Yeah,
because that's where everything's heading, and they're making it accessible to absolutely everyone. I don't know if are they going to build it themselves or are they going to integrate it.
they've integrated Kalshi, I think, for the first bit of it, and I think now they are largely thinking about doing it themselves.
Let's see how it works under the hood. Just let us take a look,
Yeah,
and then we'll go and build it ourselves.
But yeah, you're right. Like the people they seem to have found a product now with which they can also now financialize everything essentially, and that means that you can go after huge bits of trading, like particularly like the derivatives markets. I think people think this industry could like 10x over the next year. I mean, these are the people building it, but so take it with a grain of salt. And I think a lot of this will also, the next stage of this will be around regulation, to see which countries will allow this. Is this gambling? Is this not? You kind of know which countries are probably going to be a bit higher regulation than others.
I hope for our benefit it is classed as gambling in the UK and we don't have to pay any tax on it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like you can expand. And this is just what I'm saying is like, I think being in crypto for the last few years has really just been about like buy and hold. And I think now it's going to shift to like new ways basically to make money in crypto. And I don't know if it's going to be the same sort of trade that it was. As in, I'm not in crypto for a pump, basically. I'm not in crypto for ETH to go back to 4K. I'm in it so they can do a 5x or a 10x. And in my mind right now, I don't see that for a lot of the L1s. But I really do see it for this sort of stuff. And I think there'll be crazy ways to make money on the internet, which probably kind of shifts the content that we make as well. Like it becomes less about the tech and more about like the insight into like what's going on in the world.
So I have a question for you on that then, to stew on. What do you think that means for, like, you know, we always talk about retailers come in and this and that, and I'm becoming less and less convinced of like the expanded pool of, and I have like a WhatsApp chat with me and Mike, who's our chief ops officer at Blocmates, and like a few of our mates who are total non-crypto natives, like, and the group was once called something else, it's now called the Rebuild for their purposes. And they occasionally just like every so often when we go like aggressively down, they'll send us a screen grab of like their Chainlink bag on Binance that they bought however, like, I don't even know how many years ago. And like every time I laugh and I see it and I think, not laugh at their misfortune, by the way. I mean, just their appetite for trading and buying everything that we're talking about. And like, do you think that we will ever see like this, like onrush, like we kind of saw 2021, like the DeFi summer type period where we'll get that influx? Like, will the floodgates open again? Because that's the only thing. I think the options will be endless, but I find it hard sometimes to view this like wave coming in. I think a lot of that is due to the reputation that the industry has at times as well. I think there's probably a few questions in one there, but maybe we can get to one of them.
Yeah, and we can all discuss it, but that is the number one issue with crypto right now, is that the market cap is largely held in these things that we're now saying, I don't know if they're going to capture the value of the next user, the marginal user coming in. Like Polymarket could 10x. It really could in the next year. And it is going viral. Polymarket is a term, like in the US. Like, have you had a better product market fit than that in crypto? But
Anthony Joshua was sponsored by it for the Jake Paul fight tonight. It's just insane. Yeah,
it's going to be bigger than that. I was at his fight versus Klitschko actually many years ago. It was quite a night with OSF. But it's very clear that we're finding product market fit here, but they're not coming in to buy Link. And we can say that if Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is a slightly different trade. Bitcoin is a trade of a debasement trade, which digital gold, and like you can see the funds flowing in there for that. But for now, I feel as though it is weird because we want them to all come in and buy our altcoins, and I don't know if that's ever happening. And but the adoption can go high. It's so much easier to get people involved in that sort of stuff than it is in Link. Do you know what I mean? It's so much easier to say, like, you can bet on, weather markets, or you can, what word gets said. Like, that is that is a very easy onboarding route. Probably sometimes even easier than meme coins to a certain extent. Like, I think meme coins, people just have an experience of the chart going up and the chart going down. Like, if we can find a better product to, again, financialize internet culture, I think you could onboard so many people, because people love that stuff. They love it. So I think we're just going to find better form factors for that, essentially, over the next 2 years, because the trends are still there, but we're just leaving behind big bits of the market cap of crypto as we work out product market fit.
I'd argue you probably did see a mass onboarding event, and the main benefactors were Phantom. But it just appealed to a total different demographic that was way more short-term lottery ticket minded than I want to come in, buy something that's like tangibly good, where you can kind of like tell a story around it, like why we got so excited in 2020, like, but DeFi Summer, like everything that was getting built there. This was just like mindless fun. At the same time, I think each mass onboarding has a retention factor. So like DeFi Summer was probably significantly larger than what's going to happen with what happened with meme coins happening. So let's say there was like 30% of people returned from like a mass onboarding event of DeFi Summer this time around. I think it'll be probably like close to 3 to 5%. Now, that doesn't say that the next opportunity where what we're speaking about here is not going to onboard someone like the next wave, the next cohort, the next batch of people. But what's the retention factor there? Are they interested in adjacent products? They're probably not going to go and buy tokens of 2020, like new coin good, old coin bad. And what we're getting at here, like the whole like gist of the conversation, is the largest disconnect in the industry now is fundamentals on paper. You should have been a good little boy and bought and hold something over multiple cycles, just like the intelligent investor told you to. Just be Warren Buffett, basically. But the vast majority of the tokens have no tethering whatsoever to the underlying fundamentals, while the team are happy to go and get acquired by Circle. Oh, but the token's not coming along. Like, so something needs to change. You either don't have a token or you have direct tokenized equity. Maybe there's some like utility tokens in between that definitely make sense, but that is catching would-be new investors off guard when you could potentially like be investing in something in the stock market, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're bobbing and weaving in this conversation sort of every which way, and where it's funny is I don't think you are lacking speculative things to bet on. Like, for example, even whether it's deep in and stuff like that, you know, like helium on Solana.
It's coming back.
Yeah, all that sort of thing. Or whether we're talking about the kids who have been onboarded by Phantom trading shitcoins on Solana because the UI, UX is just easier than ever. But as Grant's saying, it's this disconnect between fundamentals, token price, and all the nasty stuff that goes on in the background that we're all aware of. That's where I don't know where that goes.
Yeah, tokens themselves, I think we're like, I don't think they'll ever be solved, so to speak. I think that we literally will just go round and round on different ways.
Yeah.
The next time will be a reaction to the time previous. It does feel like ICOs will probably be with us for a little bit of time here, just because of the rule changes in the US. But I do think that, yeah, you can have a lot more. You can already see it, like people are going to have to demand more from them off the gate. And I saw even like this week, Rainbow Wallet looked like they're like trying to integrate almost a quasi equity like token. We tried to do that with REKT like a year ago, and essentially just gave our token holders equity. But there's going to be ways to tie them forever, I think.
There's a new interesting framework that came out this week by Colosseum in collaboration with like MetaDAO. So MetaDAO's kind of like this launch pad with Paradigm, but there's a new kind of token equity framework. So similar to like a SAFE or a SAFT. So they've expanded on the back of that, which becomes a stamp. And effectively, all that does is tie direct equity and ownership towards the token. And then the governance rights are actually tied to a prediction market. So instead of this kind of like decentralized theater that goes on with regards to DAOs who have these basically worthless governance tokens, what we've seen this week, they allow prediction markets to actually determine the outcome of whatever the governance vote is.
Okay. Yeah, look, I'm not even going to try and solve the previous tokens. Like the previous tokens, as we see in DeFi, there's trouble. There's trouble. Like Aave and Uniswap and all this sort of stuff with massive volumes still have issues. But I do think we are gonna get there. I realize we only have 10 minutes left, so I do want to move to the questions, which we normally do at this stage of the conversation. But I think it's been a really good chat just about maybe the future of crypto for 2026. I think we've largely been on the same sort of wavelength. It would be good to, if you have any questions, just ask them either on the website or on YouTube or on X. But and just finally, we have the crypto gathering coming next month. Go check out Real Vision. It's going to be in Miami, 22nd to the 25th. I still think there's tickets at realvision.com/crypto gathering. Okay, so we do have some questions already. How do you see prediction market wars playing out? Do Polymarket and Kalshi keep huge market shares, or will it start to fracture and see companies build their own platforms? Personally, I think there's just too big a market now. Robinhood have now entered. I think we're going to see so many different people look at this as a new way to trade. But I don't know if you guys have any strong views.
Inevitably, people can see opportunity, and where there's opportunity, builders will flock and try and spin up their own variation. There's already, a handful I could name off the top of my head. Where it goes, though, the Kalshi Polymarket thing, which I think has been a slightly unfair fight, by the way, in the last few months in particular. I think you'll have the clear winner. I think you're already seeing that, really, with Polymarket, however you determine a winner. And I do think that maybe on the negative side, you might just see a little bit of sludge as well, with just loads of them coming in trying to compete for mind share and volume and all this kind of thing. And who can blame them? I'm not saying that's positive or negative, but if you could just go to Polymarket every time, why wouldn't you? I know there's some prediction market technical experts out there that are probably telling me all the bits and bobs that I don't know about the technicalities of it. But yeah, I guess the short answer to the question is I do think you're going to see more and more coming online. I don't think this is going away anytime soon. Like we've just said, you've got Polymarket on Anthony Joshua's shirt for his Jake Paul fight tonight. So
it's a diamond encrusted necklace.
Diamond encrusted necklace.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Jesus, how have I got that wrong? Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing that's happened in time gone by, particularly with prediction markets. Perhaps Dex's. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy here. Do you want to? Is that cutting through? Because I can just.
No, we're good. Keep going.
So what's going to happen is there's going to be a liquidity constraint issue because there's already issues with Polymarket on long dated markets. So all of these, and there are a lot of good ones outside of Polymarket. Myriad's really, really good. I think there's a lot of others that are good. Liquidity is going to be a sticking point. Liquidity, there's going to be liquidity sticking points, particularly on the longer dated markets. People aren't just going to say idle capital in these markets waiting for the 2028 election to kind of play out. That needs to be solved. Parlays need to be solved. Leverage probably needs to be solved on top of them. So whoever can kind of build on top of that's probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see niche ones as well. Like we just said, the broad ones are going to have to deal with liquidity, and then there'll be niche ones around very specific things, which I think in some ways might be the easier ones to build at this stage. Okay, Benedict on Real Vision. If we are in a 4-year cycle after all, when would you roughly expect this to bottom out? If it is possible that we're in the process of seeing the dip in the 4-year cycle, and we are in for 3 years of upside from here. I think this hasn't really resembled necessarily any of the previous cycles. It does look like, the top was around that 4-year sort of point, but it wasn't as aggressively to the upside. And there's a view now about whether this is a 5-year cycle, or if this was we've gone away from cycles completely. The dip hasn't been as aggressive, and the rise wasn't as aggressive as what you normally saw in previous cycles. My honest view is that we could continue to see a drift in the top tokens in crypto in the short term. L1s, Bitcoin, I think there's an above 50% chance that Bitcoin hits its 200-week moving average next year, at least once, which is kind of around 60K, just with the general trend of the market. And I still wouldn't say it's like that terrible if that happens. I do think that the global M2 and the move to gold, silver, platinum, all hitting all-time highs right now, it will return, and you'll see sustained inflows in Bitcoin. But normally when you have a wobble like this in the major tokens, it's difficult to time the bottom. So I still think it's like 50-50 whether this like 80K level was the bottom, or if we go down to kind of 60-ish. And my gut right now says we've still got one more big flush in us. What do you guys think? Do you have an overall market view at the moment?
I think like from times gone by, the question is like 4-year cycle with connotation to the wider market. I don't think we're in that paradigm anymore. I think Bitcoin might more closely adhere to that, there or thereabouts, plus or minus, however we want to call it. Also in a total new paradigm. Like, so if we're trying to like overlay a 4-year cycle on alts or on Bitcoin, I think the answer is totally different.
Yeah, I agree. Altcoins, I've never. It's very, very, very difficult to view a 4-year cycle right now, because they kind of go through brief periods, and I don't even know. If you look at the others chart or total 3 chart, it doesn't really look like a cycle at all. It just looks like
don't look at it.
I have felt for Hickson, who's absolutely my quant in our newsletter writer, and he's kind of been writing market commentary every single day, and he did write in yesterday's. And it's like relatively long, but he did say, I don't want to leave you in a pure state of paranoia about possibly losing everything as soon as tomorrow, but here are some positives. For only the 4th time in Bitcoin's history, the RSI of BTC priced in gold has dropped below 30. That's deeply oversold. The previous 3 occasions you ask, 2015 bear market bottom, 2018 bear market bottom, and the 2022 bear market bottom. So you're telling me there's a chance?
It's true. Like Bitcoin versus gold doesn't make any sense anymore. If everyone has the belief that this is digital gold, then it doesn't. It's not making sense. I think there is like this. Once you get into why that might be happening, people say stuff like quantum privacy, or like there could be, or it's China doing something where they're like selling all their Bitcoin and buying gold right now, and like that's a trade, like attack Trump in some sort of way. Like you can kind of really go down the rabbit hole of stuff. Yeah. Bitcoin will come back, in my opinion. It will come back at some stage pretty strongly next year, but I just feel it in my my gut that we're going to have at least one more shakeout. Okay, we'll go. What else have we got here? How do we get exposure to Polymarket? Good question. I think they may have a token. They basically said they're going to have a token next year. So part of it right now is people who are trading on it are expecting a token at some point in 2026. I think maybe Q1 or Q2.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them have their own L1 as well. Like with something with extreme product market fit like that, I think they'd probably want to own their own stack in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be. If that helps them, I don't know, but it does feel like they are going to be big enough to maybe get that to happen. And
yeah,
then
they don't need to be paying rent to Polygon for much longer.
I know, it's crazy. So the name Polymarket comes from the fact that they were on Polygon, which is wild. Which is the L2, or was it side chain really for ETH?
Yeah, for side chain. Yeah.
Nev on X, can you ask Kobe what's the best thing he bought with the big Echo sale? This is not Kobe, to be clear. This is Grant. Looks similar, different guy. I don't know what he bought. I saw him at a Coinbase event yesterday. It looked like he does look. He turns up to Coinbase events now. I'm sure he's done very, very well. That did feel like the top. That did feel like when they bought All In podcast for.
Yeah.
10 million, 12 million? Was it higher than that? How much did they buy? They bought
I think the deal was 375 and 350 of it was the acquisition.
Oh, so it's 25 million. They bought a podcast for 25 million here, guys.
Can we get some of that?
And just for clarity there, that is one of our friend of Blockmates, a contributor, and it's a slight inside joke. We were on a pod the other week, and someone left a comment and said Kobe and SBF looking good here on about me and Grant. So my hair was longer. I immediately cut some of my curly hair off, and Grant has retained the Kobe tag. So
yeah, I wish I was a few quid behind him. Jesus.
Yeah.
God. Anyone wants to buy any of my podcasts for $25 million?
Yeah.
We'll do ours for 24. So like we'll undercut Mando every single step of the way.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look, I think that's going to be it for this week. I don't think they're wheeling me out for a show next week, but who knows? If not, then it's been a pleasure speaking to you guys all throughout 2025. Prices are maybe not as good as we hoped. Some stuff went up, some stuff went down. I think Bitcoin's ending the year looks like roughly slightly down. Hopefully next year we have a better one. But thanks for coming on, Blockmates, guys. Pleasure speaking to you guys about what we've seen so far over the last few months and then what we predict for next year. We'll hopefully have you guys on in the New Year's.
Thank you very much, mate. It was really fun.
Yeah,
all right,
thanks
guys.
for having us. Thanks very much.
Yeah, of course. Have a great Christmas, you guys.
See you on the next one.
Have a great Christmas to everyone in the audience too. We will see you again in the new year. Bye, guys.
Keep the faith.